So our third panel for the day is Retreat Leadership in Africa. And joining us is the lovely Elaine Okeke Martin from Denmark, the founder of Spa and Wellness Association of Africa. I need to drink some water. And together with Elaine, we have ancestral healer, storyteller, and spiritual activist. So we've already heard him before. He's fabulous. Lito Boy from South Africa. Fikile Moeti, who is the co-founder of the Yoga Bar in Zanzibar. And Tiri Nefile, founder of Munga Plains in Botswana. Thank you so much, and we look forward to moving forward. I shall pin you in a moment. Elaine, would you like to get going? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Can you hear me?
And there you are, you're pinned.
Hello, everyone. Good day to everyone. A heartfelt welcome to all joining us across Africa and the world. I can see, oh my goodness, it's truly special to be connected through this shared moment. A circle of voices, cultures, and hearts gathered to celebrate the power of retreat leadership rising from our continent and wisdom Africa offers to the world. My name is Elaine Okeke Martin. I'm the moderator. My past experience curating SWA, the Spa and Wellness Association of Africa, conferences, connecting with institutions, retreat, and brand leaders across the continent, gives me the appreciation for the challenge and beauty of holding space in such a diverse and sacred context. So I want to create something with this panel that not only reflects where African wellness is, but where we are going next. So, but before I dive in, I just wanted to say something. I want to give a huge shout out to Michelle and Marianne, and I'd like to take a moment to extend a very special thank you to these two incredible women, Michelle and Marianne, for their tireless dedication and commitment behind the scenes of the Africa Wellness Initiative and this summit. And this initiative began as a dream, one that Susie, as she mentioned already, myself and a few others discussed in 2015. And to give this a voice is just this is the rightful place and the global stage it has today. And Michelle and Marianne, thank you both for your grace, your strength, and your belief in what Africa can bring to the global wellness landscape. Now, a quick move to my amazing panel. Please give them some love. They are on Instagram. You can find them there. They are amazing. You've already heard from one of them today. I'd like to start with Fikile Moeti. She's heritage South African, and she's also lived in Botswana for many, many years. And for the last 4 years, she's lived in Zanzibar. She's the co-founder of the Yoga Bar Zanzibar. She's affiliated to Yoga Alliance International. She loves music and has a passion for DJing, and she loves the arts and media. And she also believes that going backwards and to your roots and slowing down is key. Lito Boy, who you all heard from today, a visionary storyteller with a deep commitment to preserving and amplifying indigenous knowledge, spiritual activism, and environmental justice. He is a healer at heart. And we've got Terry as well. He's born in Switzerland and up and left and went off to buy land. And today it's now Munga Plains, which is a yoga safari retreat camp. We're going to hear so much about what he's doing in the community and how he's spreading that, or going to be spreading that, across Africa. So I would like to dive in to my panelists now. They here. Yes, I can see them. Okay, fantastic. So this is an opening frame to all the panelists, and I'll start with you, Fig. Across Africa, retreating into nature or sacred spaces has always been part of our way of life, whether through ancestral gatherings, initiation rites, or community healing. Today, the world is looking to Africa for new models of wellness. Together, we explore how retreat leadership is reshaping the narrative. From your vantage point, what does retreat leadership in Africa mean beyond hospitality, and how is it reshaping the global narrative of wellness? So just a quick answer from all three of you. Thank you. Fik, we'll start with you.
Okay, good evening, good afternoon, and I guess good morning. Maybe somewhere in the world. I saw someone was saying in Australia and listening, and watching. It's lovely to connect with you all. I've been thankful to be able to spend some of the afternoon on the calls today. Thank you, Elaine. Gosh, there's so much happening in Africa at the moment, and I think this is the reason why we are congregating right here on this summit. In terms of my background and why I ended up in Zanzibar, is exactly to the question of what's happening here in terms of retreat leadership. And if you might have seen what I think it was National Geographic that mentioned Tanzania and Zanzibar, highlighting them as a cover story, the place to travel. That's a huge thing for us. It's a major thing, and I feel that Zanzibar, I feel like Tanzania, of course, is ready. Few challenges that I do feel that we'll chat about here on this panel. But it's just exciting times to be able to gather and speak about what's happening on the African continent and the multicultural tapestry that is forming as we dive in.
Thank you so much, Vic. And Lisa, what would you like to say to that?
Yeah, for me, I think my original context around this conversation is truly that the heartbeat of Africa is spirituality. And for me, many of the experiences that I've had with many different people is truly to reconnect people to themselves, to the land, to the spirit, and to everything, because Africa is truly the birthplace of all civilization. You know, we carry such a depth of wisdom. And so as the cradle of humankind, I think it's imperative to always tap back into the heartbeat, which is the spiritual aspect of our ways of being, our ways of seeing, our ways of acting, our ways of perhaps perceiving a new world. And I feel like there's a lot of answers that Africa holds that we are ready to host people and share.
Fantastic. We love that. And Terry, what do you want to say there?
Yeah, thank you. And hi, everybody. On my side, look, next year, I think we are planning about 40 different retreats with retreat leaders across the world. And I remember a few years back when we started this project, it was following a transformational trip, essentially in Botswana. And I remember looking at, retreats and places like Retreat Guru and these type of areas, which typically promote a lot of retreats online. And I remember seeing hundreds of retreats in Bali, in Costa Rica, in many places, right? And I had this feeling that Africa and going back to nature had such a transformation on me, but the ability for, people from different places around the world to experience this place was still very limited. So this is one of the drivers for me to launch this project and to enable essentially more and more retreat leaders to experience Africa and to simplify essentially the process of experiencing safaris and really coming into the land. So a lot of evolution in this space, and I'm really glad to see that these type of initiatives already happen today and that we're discussing retreat leadership in more detail. So I'm very glad to be here.
Thank you. So we're hearing from guys that wellness is open, going back, slowing down, and reconnecting. So we have such tough questions for these guys today, and we're going to take them. We're going to start with you, Vic. Your question is about cultural convergence. Now, Zanzibar has historically been crossroads of trade, culture, and spirituality. Arab, Indian, African, and European influences layered together. How do you integrate this unique, cultural DNA into your retreats, your vision, and how do you ensure authenticity while appealing to the global audience?
Yeah, thanks, Elaine, for that. I think what I love the most about this continent is that you don't have to try. It's already there. You arrive and you just see the sunrise, you see the moon set. It's already there. You feel it in your feet when you take your shoes off and you put your feet into the sand. You see it around you. The energy is there. It's a spiritual feeling. So I don't have to do all of the work. But I definitely don't manufacture it myself. It's already here and I feel it within our community. When I get retreat leaders and retreat goers coming to Zanzibar, and they might go and they stay at a 5-star hotel, you have to get to that five-star hotel by going into the village. And this is what I find sometimes a little different from, I mean, as you said, I am from South Africa. There's no big separation between here are the villages and here is the hotel, or here is where you are staying. You are inside. You are part of the community. It is hard to not be part of the community. So you already like dive into it straight away. When you step outside of the walls of your hotel or wherever you're staying, you are going into someone's home. So you are kind of forced to engage, to learn, to unlearn, to learn again. And that's the beauty I find about being here in Zanzibar. That's where we are based, also here with the yoga bar. We're in a beautiful village called Cairo Village. It's a fisherman's village. It's their land. So it's really profound when you feel that authenticity. You don't have to do much. You just have to be present, and you got to be willing to learn.
Yes.
Those are the two things.
And it's the warm welcome, you know, that welcome as well, right?
Absolutely. They always say they don't need you, they just need your respect.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. Fantastic. Okay, I have another question for Letha. This is about youth and accessibility. So South Africa carries a long history of healing through music. Letha, you know, movement and spirituality for that matter, yet for many young Africans, retreats are perceived as elite or inaccessible. How do you bridge the gap between ancient healing traditions and the needs of a new generation who may not see themselves in today's, you know, retreat spaces?
Thank you so much for that question. For me, it's very fascinating when I was sitting with this question. I mean, the typical models, which are the green bottle, where you have a whole lot of different ways of getting people there, you know, which is a typical phase. But if we look at it from an African perspective, and I love this one because I sat with my ancestors in the land and everything. And one of the things that came up is, when did we become so poor that we even have to consider access? You know, access was always the given. And then you look at it from a different perspective, the Ubuntu-centric perspective, where I am because we are. So we have to create spaces where we have the elders, and each one has a role, right? The elders are the ones that are transmitting the wisdom, sharing the beautiful aspects of life. The elders hold space in beautiful ways. And then you have the adults. The adults are the ones that facilitate the processes. They're the ones that create the processes for the adults, I mean, for the elders to be able to share that beautiful wisdom that they carry. And then the other hand, we have the youth. The youth play such a critical role because they are so energetic and so willing to help out. So in retreat design, it's so important to always involve all aspects, you know, because that's what it is about. There's always space. I mean, I just came from a ceremony right now, and it's the most fascinating thing to see how community comes together in such a powerful way. You see the adults have got their role, and they play it so well. You see the elders have their role, and they play it so well. You see the youth have their role, and they play it so well. The youth sing, they dance, and they inspire the adults to move into it because they don't care. You know, they've got the energy. And then the elders ground us in such a beautiful way with the wisdom that they transmit. So for me, it's all about really designing with the ecosystem in mind. You cannot have one without the other. You have to have all. And that's what Ubuntu is about. We lift as we rise. And it's an initiatory phase because you start off as a young, youthful individual. You move towards an adult. And as an adult, you move towards an elder. So these different phases hold you. And the more time that the youth spends with the adults, the more times that the adults spend with the elders, then they are one day called up to be the same way. So retreat design in Africa is always about taking into consideration the ecosystem. And that's the way that we design our retreats. We make sure that everyone is involved because everyone has a role to play.
I love that. I think it's about, you know, changing the perception as well, as you said in the beginning, you know, and how we think, and, you know, just allowing what we already have and then taking that into design. That is such a good answer. And I'm sure we'll be getting some questions as we go along. So I'll move on to Terje. yours is land and conservation. Now, leading retreats in a wilderness setting like Munga Plains, comes with responsibilities that go beyond experience. You are custodians of land, wildlife, and heritage. How do you balance international demand for transformative safari retreats with the need to safeguard fragile ecosystems and empower local communities? Terry.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. So indeed, it's a complex paradox, right? Because if you think about it, on one hand, what really makes a place like Botswana and some of these locations in Africa so unique is the fact that they're still very, very much intact. They haven't been touched by human beings. You still have wild animals roaming around, few communities, and that's really what also makes these experiences healing from a wellness perspective, right? That's what I wanted people to experience. I especially think that from in the Western world with all the constant connection and technologies, that's really what I wanted to show other people, my peers, to go into Africa and to experience something like this, even for a few days. It just grounds you back and it just heals you a lot. But at the same time, bringing more people and bringing tourists in means that you're essentially developing buildings, you're developing construction, you're starting to have a certain impact. So that was critical at the start of the project and the way we thought about this. The point was always the land comes first, and we are in the animals kingdom. And same thing, we are in the tribal land of different cultures and different tribes. And this was already very, very important since the beginning in the way we addressed the retreat center and how we built it. Right, it was always about let's make sure that whatever we build, we could remove it tomorrow, and nature would take over very quickly. So you can see it in all the premises and everything that we've designed. And even in terms of for example, the group sizes that we bring in, we're not trying to do mass tourism. Rather, we're trying to take one group at a time slowly and making sure that people can experience the same thing without, having a negative impact on everything's around there, right? And the same thing on the community side or the cultural aspect was very, very important for me while I was developing this project to ensure that we were respecting essentially the local communities. So I developed quite a good relationship with the chief from Kavimba, from the Basubia people there. And we always strive to hire people from the different villages, even though sometimes the competence might not be there. So it's a lot about training the people and even them understanding what is not just the safari industry, but what is also the wellness industry and what are we doing with yoga. They always perceive it potentially as a competing religion, right? So we're always saying, no, it's not something that goes and competes against your own traditional values, right? It's something that complements it. And this is where you can, by bringing the external guests and bringing together the local communities, we create something really quite beautiful. So I won't go too far into the whole thing, but yeah, it's very important, and it was always part of the project. And I hope that as we see more and more wellness projects develop, they follow the same principles.
Yeah, I love that. So keeping in mind, land comes first, and then of course the sustainability of what you're building and developing those relationships with the chiefs, the locals, and then making sure it's complementary to your design. I love that. Terry. Okay. Fig, you also, we talked about narratives and perceptions. So as someone who's worked in media and cultural storytelling, what misconceptions still consist about African retreats in global wellness market, and how can leaders like you shape the narrative so Africa is not only seen as a destination, but as a teacher of timeless retreat wisdom?
Absolutely. Yeah, we still get the challenges of the infrastructure, the fear and the safety, and the visas. There's all of that we have to deal with, also with just the nitty-gritties of going into the retreat and talking to our retreat goers. But I think the most challenging thing for me, or the one thing I make sure that I incorporate, is just managing expectations. And making sure that when they do arrive, or when I have retreat leaders arriving, that they have these ideas of what aesthetically it's supposed to look like. I always call it the IKEA straight lines kind of thing, and I'm just like, no. We're in Africa. like, you don't understand the story behind this wood that this craftsman has just made, who is our neighbor, and the story behind the Dao wood, and the Dao wood that's used for all the beautiful doors here in Zanzibar, and the Dao wood for the boats, and the history and the ancestry behind it. So it's kind of the perceptions sometimes that I find that you have to go pole pole, is what we say, slowly, slowly. For my Swahili fam out there, you really need to be so patient about it, and just create a space where, with all the expectations you have, you're there to kind of bridge that gap between the community and your visitors. So I think that's such an important one that we as Yoga Bar really take time with, and using and making sure that we're using always our community. To be honest with you, we would not be able to function if we did not have the community. Like, our infrastructure is from the neighbor who cooks, or the guy who's going to build, or something's broken and he needs to fix that up. And these are all around our village. So you are automatically there. They are automatically part of your ecosystem. And I think my biggest worry at this stage is that government is starting to implement bigger resorts and bigger hotel chains, which is kind of killing our small market. And I think we can't forget the small guys that actually helped build this tourism industry and the tourism economy. So these are the big challenges that we're finding on the island. We're seeing it in Bali. We're seeing it in all these other islands. We're struggling with the same thing. We can't forget the small guys.
So it will be about obviously integrating, everything, so that we don't forget. Yes, the small.
The community must benefit, and I think that's kind of like a bigger goal.
Yes, that is a huge. That's another discussion, to be honest. Thank you for that. Letha, cultural responsibility, there's a fine line between drawing on indigenous healing practices and, commodifying them, really. How do you, as a leader, honor the depth of African cultural traditions while making them relevant in a modern retreat context without losing their sacredness?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question, It's something that I've struggled with for a long time. But for me, it's truly about relationships. One thing that we've done very well as Ancient Wisdom Africa is collaborate with communities and truly, make sure that the face of whatever it is that we do is led by community members who are of that space. The wisdom keepers, the wisdom holders, And so we always try to work together with these individuals. And therefore, it feels right. It feels so aligned when you feel like this is truly coming from someone who knows the land, who knows the space, who carries the wisdom, instead of getting someone that comes from elsewhere and comes in, It's a completely different energy that you get when you have someone from the space lead you into whatever space that you're going to, whatever retreat that you're doing. I found that it's truly transformation because they carry a depth of wisdom, a depth of history, a depth of understanding. And so no protocol would be broken, because most of the times these retreats come and break many protocols and cause damage or impact in many different ways, because you come and you go, and then the community has to clean up. The community is the one that has to live with the decisions that you've made. So for me, it is just so important to build sustainable relationships with communities that lead, and finding the right people within those communities that can walk the journey with us. Like I said, our role is to just facilitate these experiences and make sure that those that know, the wisdom keepers, the elders, are the ones that hold you in a good way. Because trust you me, if that happens, you won't go wrong.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. And also just ensuring that, as you say, while building those sustainable relationships, that, we're still okay to share what, we have to offer from the African culture. Because I think at the end of the day, that's what people are coming for, and making that available to them. Yeah. I if there are any questions here, we will start soon. I just have a question for Thierry. authenticity versus expectation. Many international guests arrive in Africa, and you know, as Vic mentioned, with preconceived ideas of what, you know, healing or the place should look like. Now, how do you manage these expectations while staying true to Botswana's authenticity, land, and culture? And what do you believe Africa uniquely offers that can be replicated elsewhere? Because when we spoke, you spoke about replicating what you're doing. So tell us a bit about that. Terry, I don't know if he's on. Is he on? Have we lost Terry? Lisa, have we lost Terry? I think so.
We've lost him. I'm sure he'll be back soon.
Okay.
I'm back, sorry.
Oh, are you there?
He's got back.
Yeah, I pressed.
Go ahead.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I think I heard your question, but I lost
Yes.
lost track. So preconceived
Correct.
ideas, right?
Yeah. So your question is about authenticity versus expectation. I think you have that. If you could just dive into that.
Yeah. So I think that's for sure a very complex issue. I don't think, especially for most of our clients coming from, again, the Western world, it's very difficult for them to have a clear understanding of what is Africa. Especially they have a preconceived idea of, you know, different countries and what they might have seen on TV or different places. So it's very difficult to properly set the expectation. So we work, of course, a lot with retreat leaders and also people that have already been there to try to make sure people understand how to approach it, how it's going to be, how it is from a security perspective. They might have a lot of concerns that typically when you are on site, you're like, it doesn't apply at all. It doesn't even make sense, the questions you're asking. So there's a lot of preconceptions that we have to work against. But what's important for us in the end, especially in Botswana, is really to remind people that we are, again, in the animals kingdom, that, again, this is not Disneyland, and you cannot expect to see a lion, you cannot expect to see whatever. Every safari is going to be different. And again, that we move with nature, that time is different. But when we say, you know, an activity starts at 2 p.m., might be 3 p.m. Again, it's going to depend on nature. And I think it's very important for people to go out of this very, you know, boxed type of schedule in their mind, and to let themselves explore a little bit, right? And that's how you enjoy. It takes you a few days. I can always see like people being a bit, it takes them a few days to adapt. And after that, this is where they really start to enjoy, and this is where they really start to connect, and they go back to creativity, asking questions, and just enjoying nature. So you can see this process happening, but it's very difficult to set the expectations beforehand. I think everybody, once they go back, they keep that in mind, and it's a tool that we develop over these few days. Within Africa.
And I think we're going to get better at it, and we're going to get better at getting them unplugged as soon as they arrive. I think that's one of the things they will appreciate as well, because the more time, let's say they have just 3 days or 5 nights to stay, the sooner they get unplugged, the better. So we must think of ideas there. So if you have any ideas, let us know.
I'm seeing it is getting worse and worse, to be honest. And I'll just there, but when I went to Africa the first time, even a few years back, the goal was disconnection, and you couldn't connect in many places. Right now, you have Starlink, you have more 4G, 5G network everywhere. Everybody arrives and has a eSIM already, so everybody's already connected. And I find that this, unfortunately, you know, it takes more time than for people to just put their phone on the side and focus on whatever is there. They're still connected afar, and it's not getting better, unfortunately, due to better technologies.
Lisa, you listening to this? He's saying it's not getting better. This is not good.
Not at all. We have to fix it. Thierry, let's fix it. Fixie. Let's fix it. Let's get Fixie on it, you know.
Are addicted. Exactly. I can tell you. They're addicted, unfortunately, in this.
Not much we can do. I want to put out there that we are a Wi-Fi free zone, so we have established that.
Well done. Well done.
Good. So now I feel I've been really soft on you guys, and we're going to go into a deep dive cross questions now. Hope you're ready, and I hope the audience is still engaged. Please give us a shout out which countries you're listening in from with flags, or it'll be good to know if we have some people here from where our panelists are from. So I would like to start with the first deep dive question, which is about resilience and leadership. I think I'll start with you, Fix, again. So retreat leadership in Africa often faces challenges that are not common elsewhere, as, you know, political instability, visa barriers, climate shifts, infrastructure, you name it. How do you hold space for guests in the midst of these realities, and what personal leadership practices help you remain resilient?
Yeah, I kind of mentioned it a little bit before. I mean, and you were just talking to Terry about it. It's the managing expectations. Infrastructure, yes, we know that in Africa that we're going to have many challenges. Right now, I'm going, oh gosh, I hope my electricity doesn't go off while I'm on the summit right now. You know, so there are these things on a daily basis where we've had to make plan Bs with solar panel, solar energy generators, etc. These are things we all deal with on the continent. But going back to that main one, it's just managing those expectations and letting people, personally on my retreats, letting retreat goers actually see the relationship, see the gold. And the gold is the relationship with the people and the land. And once they're able to really dive deep into that and see that for themselves, they start to relax. And Terry said it, like the first 3 days, it's a bit tense and it's a bit, where am I? They feel a bit uncomfortable. You go into day 4, you go into day 5, and they actually start going, okay, I'm feeling the energy of the land. And that's the beauty, that's the gold of what Africa has to offer. You slow down. You have to slow down, because if you keep fighting with time, it's just going to fight you back harder, and you're never going to relax. And you're gonna can't wait to go home. You're not going. And this is what I give them time to relax and to get into the space. So I would say that's always my biggest challenge. But by day 4, day 3,
Okay.
you see them settling into the land, because the village does not go at your pace. Once again, the village goes pole pole, and you need to go slowly, slowly. Otherwise, you will drive yourself mad and wonder why you spent all this money to come on the retreat. So that's a personal journey. Elaine, that's the answer there is, like, it's very much a personal journey.
That makes sense. Letha, do you want to add?
I think she said it's all about relationships, you know. For me, I think that's the most important thing. And a lot of the work that we do, because like I said, for me, I always go back to this idea that, you know, the heartbeat of Africa is spirituality. And, you know, so when you connect, truly, and that's why a lot of people come to these retreats in Africa and feel so healed, because there's something that's very special and so unique that we hold, that truly is so transformational in many different ways. The land just holds you in a different way. The people hold you in a different way. The animals hold you in a different way. You know, there's just something so unique and powerful that just immediately transmits towards you. I mean, you could come there with all of your expectations and come there with all of your things. And that's what I love about Fix. She's like, well, unplug and slow down. That's the only way to do this, because when you've unplugged and you've slowed down, then you start feeling the energy. Then you start allowing the healing to occur.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Talia, do you want to add to that?
I think they said it all.
They said it all.
Exactly.
Good. Okay, so
Yeah.
I have a question for you. So regarding global trends and local roots, the global wellness industry is rapidly shifting, as you're hearing, towards digital wellness, longevity, sustainability, and immersed cultural experiences, right? Which of these trends do you see aligning naturally with African retreat leadership, and where do you believe Africa can actually lead rather than follow?
One moment quickly, Claire, you're halfway. Half time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I think I started to mention it, right? But I do think the trend around, again, digital detox and being able to immerse yourself in nature is going to be quite unique in Africa. It's one of these places where, again, you can go for a proper full disconnection versus any other place in the world, and again, where you have the ability to really go back to your roots, essentially. And I think this is where Africa should should drive. So if you take other places from a yoga perspective, potentially if you go to India and these type of places, they might have a more of a spiritual approach to it. And you might find different ways they address it. But I do think from a nature perspective, being the cradle of humankind and all these type of things, that's where Africa should drive on these initiatives.
Okay. Letha, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, sure. From an African perspective, I always sit and I think to myself, because there's so many models and we live in this Western world, right? And trends come all the time. And I always think to myself, what are the indigenous ways of approaching this versus your typical Western ways? A lot of the work that we do is really sitting with elders, and we're not here to follow trends. That doesn't work for us. The reality is we create the trends that people will follow. And I just love the idea of Sankofa to a large degree, the idea that you have to go back and fetch, all that was well in sustainable communities, all that was well, and move forward in that way. So for me, I just love the indigenous approach to things versus, your typical Western modality, and really sitting with ancient wisdom that Africa has to offer, and really listening to the depth. A lot of the work that we do is really align ourselves to the spirit of all that is the land. And we ask for permission, we ask for blessings, and we ask, what are you seeking to transmit to the people that are coming? So it's processes that are very deep, because
so you're saying it's then tagged to longevity and sustainability in Terry.
Absolutely.
How do we get the people coming in through digital wellness to experience that?
Yeah.
Vic, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, because I think that the cultural, just those cultural immersive experiences, as we said, the indigenous practices, which I want to say we're rediscovering, because it's trending now. We gotta speak about post-COVID and how even, and I speak I'm a Xhosa woman, I'm from the Eastern Cape, how a whole lot of my girls in my community were like, oh, we need to go back to Igqirha. We need to, and Igqirha is like, a sangoma, and like our traditional doctors. And 10 years ago, 15 years ago, they weren't saying that. They weren't saying that at all. So I want to say that I love the trend that it's rediscovering our indigenous experiences and our indigenous practices, and even our parents. So generational now, we're now going, oh, we do have an elder within. We do have an elder within our community. In fact, whenever you find yourself in a situation, they always say, go back home. That's where the medicine is. So this is why I always think that with where Africa is going, as much as this is the trend, it has always been there. And that's what makes it so authentic and real. And the big thing is not to dilute this and to document it. I think, Elaine, we spoke about this before, about don't dilute it, and we have to document these moments, and we need to make it real. We need to make sure that that they go on from generation to generation. So I think that's an important thing right now. Some cultures, and I will even speak here, the Maasai culture here in Zanzibar, they're not from Zanzibar, but they have that. And I learn about that, and you get to learn about that because they're part of the community. And I love that. So yeah, it's just an exciting time that we're getting to experience it. It's not manufactured, it's authentic, and it's just life.
Absolutely. And we did talk about it, about having that history, archived, which is, again, what we do at the association where I work. And I think that has been the key. That has birthed a lot of these initiatives. And I just want to say to anyone listening out there that it does, you can archive your information. We do archive that for you. And like what Vic is saying here is that, we must also give props. And I think Denzel mentioned it in the previous conversation about, making sure that the legal part is also understood. And, Letha has also mentioned it, that we need to know where the elders are from, who they are, where all this is coming from. And I think, that narrative, keeping that is key, of course, to the local roots, and then being able to share that to the global world. I don't know if that will be a trend, but I just think that it's a necessity. Yeah. So, Terry, regarding community impact, unlike many parts of the world, African retreats are often deeply woven into, lives of local communities. What models have you created where, retreats are not just serving the guests, but actively uplifting local economies, traditions, and futures?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. So I think it starts on our side with employment, and not only from the typical employees on a daily basis, but let's say my local director is from one of the surrounding villages not far away, right? She's leading the whole operation on the side, and it was a key point for me to as soon as I could give essentially the ability to make decisions from a local perspective, right? And there's lots about. I think if you come to Longer Plains, you will feel the authenticity, because it's not me making decisions from afar, being a Swiss person, right? I try to enable this project. I try to make it happen, but it's really driven by a local team, local community, and they share essentially their local heritage, right? So it's about giving the ownership and not just asking them to do X and Y and Z, right? So it started there, and I think 90% of our staff is from the 5 or 6 different villages in the surroundings. So we really try to keep people on that side. Then I would say there's a lot of initiatives around typically sourcing local ingredients, trying to buy from the farmers in the region. So we're trying to do as much as possible with the local supply chain. Can be very difficult, and it's something that we're striving to improve on. Our goal would be to be able to be as self-sustainable as possible, especially given our long distance from towns or shops in different places. It's been a difficulty and a challenge to essentially get what we need, but this is where we're trying to go to, right? And so that it also benefits local farmers and people in the surroundings. So there's many things that we're doing on this domain, but yeah, it's this interlink with local communities and local tribes is critical.
And do you think you will roll that out into like the other countries? You mentioned when we had our one-on-one set, you mentioned that you would have the same sort of concept being rolled out into other countries apart from Botswana.
Yeah, we'd love to. So this is all the same thing. It's really based on, in the end, the demand, and it's really based on the guest experience and more people willing to enjoy. But yeah, our goal is to essentially develop different spaces like this one, which are really retreat centric, and where what we do is we're not acting as a hotel. We only serve retreats and we only serve retreat leaders. And we want to have more places that really have this, not just on the side, oh, we have some yoga mats here, but really like this is the center of the of what we provide, right? So and we want to strive to create that in different places around Africa. So we hope to get there in the next few years.
Amazing. I think we'll open up just for a minute or two for some questions, and then we'll go back to our closing reflection from our panelists. I think we've got, some questions.
5 minutes, yeah.
Oh, 5 minutes. Is that all we've got? Okay.
Unfortunately, we could go on for ages. Okay. There was a question earlier on for you, Thierry, from Nikem. How does this low impact extend to managing waste and water consumption? Please, can you answer in terms of concrete sustainability within the design?
Yeah. So essentially, as I mentioned before, we thought about this from the beginning, right? And the point was really to have a camp that if we remove it tomorrow, there is limited impact. So across the board, right? So it means that we have a borehole that is solar powered to essentially get water from the ground. We're filtering that water. We're filtering all our sewage essentially locally. So we have our own sewage treatment plants on site, ecological, so that essentially the whole sewage water can be treated and then it's redistributed back, right? So we're trying to be this ecosystem that doesn't essentially just overuse resources. So even same thing, if you think about water, for example, water on the camp, we purify it ourselves, and we do not provide plastic bottles that we would buy from wherever, right? So what we give to guests is we have our branded bottles to keep them. So we use it for marketing purposes, but we give them this, and we say, okay, essentially you consume water from our purified stand, right? And we don't give other type of water across the board. But indeed, I think from the Western world perspective, they don't really understand, what it means to be off the grid and just to not have unlimited AC and power everywhere. So we're not under air conditioning. We do not allow hair dryers or things that consume a lot of power. We're fully on solar. So essentially, we impose these type of restrictions on our clients. And I think, again, it's a question of managing expectation, and it works really, really well. So we're trying to, as much as possible, again, because it's still important, try to keep the tourism active, because if you don't do it, this is also how you potentially destroy the environment, because there is no money coming back in. So it's important that it has a positive benefit, but at the same time, for sure, we need to drive it concretely.
Terry, I'm going to cut you off there. So we've got just last reflections before the closing remarks. So if you could just, in few words, guys, one sentence, if you could imagine Africa in 2035 as the global epicenter of retreat leadership, what would have changed, and what legacy would you want your own retreats to contribute to that transformation? Fix, you go.
All right. I speak from a yoga bar perspective. Stay present with your community, very important. So you know what's going on and how you can move forward. Grow slowly, pole, slowly, always, because it just goes at the land's pace. Never forget, it's the people's land, and when the world finally comes to Africa, or they're already on their way, just make sure the community benefits. That's me.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you so much. And Lita, quick one.
I'll be very quick. For me, I dream of an African retreat space where our elders are seen, heard, and truly looked up to. For me, that's the most powerful thing. It's been so transformational to work with elders in many different ways, and learning from an indigenous perspective, and really sitting down and really like, oh man, I just sitting by the tree of this massive baobab and just soaking in the wisdom. And so for me, the greatest privilege is to have that network of elders. And if we could grow that network and share that network with the world, I think the world would be a truly transformational place.
Fantastic. Love that. And Terry, you, right before my closing remark?
Yeah, I hope, look, we can disrupt a little bit old-fashioned tourism industry that has not been moving for a very long time, where a lot of the margins are just going to agents that act as middlemen. So I hope that there's, again, more value for every dollar that is spent, and that this is also redistributed down to, everybody involved. So we hope that we'll be able to develop many other camps and give many opportunities to many people.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, guys. I mean, guys, the comments coming in here are amazing. Thank you for all the shout outs from everyone listening in, telling us where you're from. The comments are beautiful. You can go in and read them again. You can follow your panel. I just want to close off by saying this, that Africa does not just host retreats. Africa is the retreat. It is the place where the world comes to remember what it means to be human, connected and whole. As leaders, our work is not to create escape, but to create return to self, to community, and to the land. And in that return, Africa shows the world its future. That's it from me. My name is Elaine Okeke Martin. Thank you so much, guys, for listening in. I really appreciate it. Love to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. And Elaine, I loved what you said. We're not bringing retreats to Africa. Africa is the retreat.
It is.
I think we
Africa
can all
is
agree
the
with
retreat,
that.
Lisa. It is the retreat. So I'd love to coin that.
I think we do. Hashtag that quickly, Elaine. That was wonderful. It was so interesting hearing everybody. And Thierry, you have a few questions in there that are quite directed because you built the retreat. And I think also Fix could possibly input there. But this was wonderful, and I feel richer for this time with you all, and I'm really, really grateful. Thank you so much.